Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am Dan Tomaszewski with Everything MSP, and I've got my good friend or my brother from another mother, Dan Tomaszewski, with me. We're not related, but we both have the same name, and we are here to talk about. Yes, I love it. I love it. I was wondering if you're going to have something up your sleeve, and that is so awesome. That is great.
Yeah, I've been getting so many pings about that. So I got the decals coming. This is the best I could do. So for the users just coming in, hashtag the real Dan Tomaszewski. So I gotta leverage that a little bit.
Absolutely, that is so awesome. And so we have two Dan T's here. We are here to talk about organizational resilience, and that you can discuss in your next opportunity. Of course, Dan Tomaszewski. Dan, want to do an introduction of yourself, a little bit about your background, and as well as with Kaseya Powered Services.
Yeah, so I've got a pretty extensive background in the MSP space. I was an MSP CEO, obviously, Dan, the same state you're from. So I've been in the shoes. I've been there. I've built a business around that and experienced all the things that MSPs face day in and day out. I went over to ID Agent right in the early days and helped them build out the channel program. Really saying like, hey, we got to get in the worlds of the MSP and get them the content and the collateral. And then when they were acquired by Kaseya, it's been my role, and a lot of people don't know about the program, but with ID Agent, which is the sponsor of this group, I've been asked to take and build that out across all of our products, across from whether it's Rocket Cyber or Network Detective, ID Agent. So my role is working with MSPs daily to create content. And I don't mean just regular generic content that you just go put in a vendor portal, but like I really wanted to make it different. And I'm going to show you a little bit of it today, but our goal is to work with MSPs. We help them close business. A cool thing that we've been able to do this year through our coaching, and we actually go on the calls with you. So that's, if you want, you know what I mean? It's one of those things if you want, but we've helped close over, I think it's $6.2 million in MRR. Average deal sizes between 5 and 6K. But that's us getting in there and learning the space. So it's cool because the data and the facts I'm going to talk about are coming from us doing these things in a real life every day, hearing it around the globe, what's going on. And that's really the cool part of my job is I can get the thermometer of what's happening East Coast to West Coast to, Australia to UK. Like you can kind of see what's happening in real time in the motions that are changing. So I absolutely love this job. I think there's nothing better than helping people grow their business. And that's really where I'm focused.
That's awesome. And there's so much change happening around the world when it comes to technology, in the use of technology. Often was just viewed as a cost center, and it really needs to be viewed as a profit center and as a way to help an organization achieve their overall goals and objectives and to be better at what they do, especially even just from a workflow perspective. It's not about us talking technology because we sit at a table with C-levels, owners, whatever the case may be, and they don't want to hear us talking about this technology and that technology. They want to talk about their business. And one of the things that I love as an MSP is being in the face of the decision makers in the organization and just talking about business, talking about their business and learning about what they do. And I think that's one of the most critical things is, what can separate us from the competition? Because a lot of times we're like, all right, so why are you better than, XYZ MSP? And well, we have the best people, we have the greatest products. And, we all can say a lot of the same things, right? But it really comes down to truly, genuinely being part of their team and being a member of their team, making them drive forward and just being all part of their business and not about the technology. Because when you talk business, the technology will follow. It will be there. So
you can't talk technology until you know where a business wants to go. if you got to understand the goals, and this brings up a great example as we get ready to start talking about this topic. But so we call it goal assist, where we're going on the sales call with you to help you, be an extension of your team. Was on a call here, I think it was about a week and a half ago. And we literally get into the Zoom room, and the prospects come in for this MSP. And the guy started off, the owner of this company, he goes, I don't want to hear how you've got backup, security, compliance, and all these solutions. He goes, I'm going to expect you have those things. He goes, I really am tired of hearing that from everybody. So if you're going to say that, I'm ending the call now. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, this is great because this fits right up the alley that I like to go. Let's go for it. And we went with that MSP and we went right into it. We're like, no, actually, we need to learn about you. What do you want to do? Where's your business want to go? What are the goals you're having? What are the hindrances that you're experiencing today? I told the guy, I said, look, I honestly, I want this to be an interview for us to be your chief technology officer and to be able to have that seat at the table. If you were going to go hire that role today for your organization, they're going to sit in the executive meetings. When you're making that decision that you want to expand your plant and increase your productivity by 40 or 50%, technology is going to be a part of that. And we need to be a part of that decision process with you, not just the end result where you come to us and say you're doing something. And my gosh, the guy, by the time we were done, we went over pricing on that call. We had it all figured out, and we literally had the deal done on that call. And he said, you're the only group that went down that path with us. Everybody
That's
came in and talked about their cybersecurity, how it's better, how their backup, it's better. He's like, but nobody talked to me about where the business is going. And just like you said, that's a very big role. And I think there's some key things I want to show you guys today that we are seeing on a regular basis, and some really good tips to go around that.
Let me just throw one other thing on there. We're going through the holidays right now. Of course, Thanksgiving started about a month ago, and we're going through a variety of holidays, and we got Christmas coming up. Think about when you're at your family Christmas party, and you have a lot of people with different personalities, different interests, and you're sitting around the table, you're sitting in the living room, and there's a lot of silence, and there's a lot of someone's talking about something, and other people that's passionate to them, right? Something exciting to them, and you don't have their interest necessarily. They might act as if they're interested, they might act as if they're present, but they might be spaced out. They might be, wait, this is just, I'm just not following you on this. But then all of a sudden you start talking about something of interest to them, and then bam, you've got people leaning in, you've got people interacting. And that's what happens when we get into those meetings and start talking about technology, because we know the traditional, the eyes glaze over or the deer in the headlights type of scenario. That's because we're talking about stuff that is so, we have so much passion about. They don't have the same passion. Their passion is their business and what their business is. And it's not about what we do, but it's what we do for them that makes the difference.
It's just the messaging. You gotta hone. I mean, you could ask a question 4 different ways and get 4 different answers, but it's like you said, if you talk about it, what's important to them, that conversation, it's just unbelievable. And there's some cool things going on. Look, the pandemic has brought, well, it's going to be interesting here. I think these next couple of months are going to be interesting, just as I was on a few calls this week already where people are talking about going back to remote and different things because they're struggling with offices and that. I think it's going to be an interesting, start to the new year. But we know the ways that work. We know how hybrids work. There's a lot of things that we know. Digital is where a lot of people are finding and researching for new managed service providers. And there's some cool trends to get you in to have that conversation. But then or even the marketing to get you to have the conversation, you need to know what to say once you get the meeting. And I think that's the big thing is so many people get in there and then they start talking about the things that they don't care about. And next thing you know, your meeting's a flop. Yeah, your opportunity's gone.
Exactly. So let's talk, let's jump into some of the things that you've learned and you found in your journeys.
Yeah, so look, I knew we threw this topic out there and it probably threw a lot of people. They're like, organizational resilience. What is what is this guy talking about? And so hear me out. I want to talk about how we got to where we're at, and then let me talk about some of the things. And Dan, we can chat about a few of these things as we go through it. One of the strategies that we use a lot, and I'm going to give this is kind of a. If you guys have questions, please. I like to be interactive. Throw questions at throw questions at us. I'm happy to take them at any time because I want this to be educational and something that you take out of this that can help you and as you go into the new year. Um, Dan, it won't let me share. I don't know if it'll let. If you
Um,
can let me. If not, I can talk about it. Um, let's
you should be
try.
able to do that now. There
Oh,
we go.
there we go. Cool, got it. So let's do this. Desktop 3. Do you see my slide? That says determine
Yes,
high value.
perfect. Yep,
So I
perfect.
teach a lot of different things on webinars and different things. So where did this come from? This topic of organizational resilience. So one of the things that we recommend you do is you simply Google, some of the things, top healthcare trends. And instead of saying in the US, you could say in Florida, in your city, in your area. Normally you use your state for an example. And then it pulls up the different trends that are going on that are important for those areas. And so I've got an example of healthcare here. So now if you're the MSP and you're going after healthcare in this example, and you pull up in your state and you see that the top 10 trends or top 8 or 9 trends, things that are in your area, you look at what they're talking about. What is it? And a lot of things, it's being agile. It's about having, a good strategy, and it's about like personal, they put all those things together. One of the top things we're seeing across almost every organization is resilience. They know they have to be able to survive if something happens to their organization. They know they're struggling with workforces right now that are leaving jobs to go to other places. So they understand that there's different things going on. So now we're taking a topic that we know is already a trend in their industry, and now we're bringing it into us showcasing how can we help, and like what does organizational resilience look like today, and give them some of the nuggets of what an MSP can do in that. But we're not talking about backup compliance. I mean, we're going to mix that in there. We're going to go have a good conversation. So this, and I'm going to get into organizational resilience, but I think this is really important as you're looking for topics.
Yeah.
If you've done webinars and they've failed, we do about 50 webinars a week. And I can tell you that when you do the research and you do some of these small things of just finding these topics that are important to them, those people show up because they're researching it. They're actively looking at it. That's their job. They're trying to find solutions and they don't have them right now. They're still trying to get them, or they're looking to enhance them. So instead of doing the same ones about 10 ways your cybersecurity can fail or things like that, we got to start getting to people at the level of what they're looking for and they're interested in. Now I'm getting a qualified buyer most of the time, and I'm hitting a topic that's important to them. And now I have to showcase to them how all that comes together. And I'm telling you, it's made a huge difference in the ability to get qualified leads at the end of a webinar where people are raising their hands and going, I'm interested. I'd love to have a conversation. I've been researching this for a while. You talked about key things that are important. Let's go have that conversation. So go ahead.
Yeah, and just kind of an interesting little bit of a humorous connection here is last night I was watching Modern Family, and of course he's a realtor and he's selling to a particular person, and he learned all about this guy, like almost too much. He threw up a poster about a particular hockey team. There was a particular type of exercise room that he said that they had in this house, and the guy's like, "Oh, I do that," and all of a sudden, everything he was throwing out there, this prospect is like, "Oh, wait a minute, I like that too. I do that," and it was just he was pulling him in so deep, and then all of a sudden, the daughter was there and someone else was there, and they start talking about the guy's birthday and the name of the guy's dog. He went a little too far, but it was just it was just interesting how it went from just this guy coming in to look at a house to all of a sudden this guy was so engaged because of the connection and knowing what this gentleman's interests were. And so again, a little humorous, analogy of an example there, but it really makes a difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And look, every time I bring up like webinars, everyone's like, "Oh, they're terrible. I never get good leads." I think I probably have a checklist of like 500 people that have told me that this year. And so I know we've worked through it and we started implementing this stuff and we said, "What's your niche?" Like, and some people were like, "Well, what if I've got 5 different verticals?" Then I said, "Then you run 5 different webinars and you hit to those areas. And if you're getting qualified leads out of it, it's a real good win for you." Or if you want to go into more generalized, you could still take those 5 verticals. We know that those topics are important, and then we generalize it enough to whereas it gets enough. You got to figure out your sweet spot, your time, and your resources. But I think it's time that we change the way we do things in terms of when it comes to like webinars and just the content we put out. And I want to get into that for, as we research the topic, we saw organizational resilience is like one of the highest that's out there because of, like we talked about, workforce. I mean, the hiring issue we are in right now in the world. Companies are short staffed and they're trying to figure out how they can be resilient while they're trying to hire, while there's things that are going on, there's workflows that aren't working right. And there's a lot of stress on a business today. So what graphic do you think is going to mean more to someone if they're out there? And look, social media, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, one of the things we do is we provide social graphics on a monthly campaign. It's to
Yeah.
build awareness. It's not necessarily to drive the lead. It's to build the awareness to whereas that person that's researching goes, "These guys do this. This is great. Let me read a little bit more." So we're trying to build that content that gets you into that cycle where you're then like, "I want to go learn more." And organizational resilience is the hot topic. And I can tell you, I have been on in 2 months about 40 different calls with MSPs and their end customer. And almost every one of them, we went down the organizational resilience path. And we talked about it, like you said in the beginning, Dan, about, let's go through, talk about your workforce. Can we look at it? What's your pain point today? How are they? What's the morale like? How's the hybrid working? Is the workflows, are things working with the way that you'd want them to? Or do you think we need to look at making that more efficient for them? Or do we think we need to look for technology that can, not saying that's the answer, but just tell me what your feelings are. And unbelievably, that is the area that most of these people go is they're like, I have to make it easier on my work staff to be able to do their job because I don't want them to leave to go to the competitor for $2 an hour more because they're
Right.
frustrated with the way our company is run. And you start hitting those chords, they're having a conversation they're not having with another MSP that walks in that door. They remember you, and you're the one that's normally sitting there at the end where they're saying, "We want to move forward with you." And let me show this stuff here.
Well, you're pulling it up too. I just mentioned that, when you take a look at organizational resilience, it's something that is always a topic, right? Is always an important thing that we look at as far as being able to adapt to changes. But, like you mentioned, when you talk about COVID and let's just forget COVID in general. I mean, let's just talk about the last 2 years. The last 2 years has brought on a level of change to every organization, and it's brought a level of change that is consistent within
Yep.
many organizations. So you can have the same conversation over and over with many organizations, and it's going to hit home. But then you can also get more granular, and you can get more granular into what kind of impacts and change there is in their organization. And because I think there's the global change and global impact, but then there's the granular components that are impacting them specifically.
100%. Yeah, and look, we just created this back for our members in November. And we did it with the feedback of what we saw and what we were hearing, just like the things you're saying. Being on those calls, I mean, we saw the conversations really change. And So look at the content here of like where we're talking. How's COVID, the services? Every business is looking at that, and they're continuing to see what it's doing to their organization. But but then looking at it from resilience gaps, prioritizing technology's got to be in there, change management's in there, accelerate with resilience with technology, plan to recover sustainably, not just quickly, back to basics from agility, and some of those things. So I remember, look at agility and resilience and bridging the gaps. And if we go back to, oops, I don't know what that one is. If we go back to this, agility was in here, being agile and things like that, talking about like, the workforce, strategies, different things like that. We're bringing in the topics that they're saying and we see are trending, and we're bringing it in to where they're going to engage that reader. So as we go down, and now everything we write it as it's coming straight from an MSP. We can't write it as a generic writer, so you got to go in and talk about it. So you're writing to those leaders, and you're trying to say, are always looking ahead and asking questions. What are we differentiating on? Is it value or price? Who could displace us? All of these things are what goes through an executive's head, whether they're small or large. They're all thinking about who can displace us. What is our value? Is it price? Is it the value we do? What KPIs does the business measure? As an IT person, that's really important. You want to know what the KPIs are, because more than likely, you're going to need to be able to help them with technology to observe those KPIs, or to help them achieve better KPIs, through technology. And then we get into a lot of things, so when you look at it from, like I said, the C levels, it's auditing, prioritizing, changing, accelerate, sustain, agility, trust. I mean, it's a pretty big model, but what we really get into is why resiliency. What is it? What's going on? And we're bringing in stuff again from a business standpoint, but this is really where I think we've honed in a lot. People, when we're on calls with MSPs and their end customers, probably the number 2 or 3 things are right here. They have misaligned workflows. They're doing something that could be done in 10 steps, but it's taking them 50 steps now. Someone I was talking to the other day was a simple printer thing. Someone literally was printing something, going to the scanner, scanning it, to then resave it as a PDF that they could send out because they didn't know how to do it on their computer. And that customer, they went in and fixed it, and they were the heroes. It's just a simple misaligned workflow. And yeah, go ahead.
And well, I have another example too in that regard is, I was speaking to one of our clients. They're a nonprofit that they go out and do education at schools for not only students, but also parents on topics of child sexual abuse. And after they perform these events, they do a survey. And it was always a hard copy paper survey that they would take all the responses. They would have a volunteer, and they would spend between 6 and 10 hours. I think it was around 6 hours, so somewhere 6 to 8, 6 to 10 hours per week, taking all this information and putting it into a spreadsheet, and then creating charts. And I said, there's better ways that we can do this, that you can get instant results. You can eliminate the potential for human error, because if you're taking information that's on a hard copy piece of paper and then you're typing it in, number one, it's just a waste of time, right? There's easier ways that it can be done. And then there's also the fact that there's the potential for human errors, but you have instantaneous results. You have it right there, and basically you know what the feedback looks like. You're not having to wait. And again, 6 to 10 hours of volunteer time per week that can be better suited for something else that requires a manual process versus something that can be done in an automated fashion.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, look, we're not teaching anything new here. I mean, a lot of MSPs, you guys know that you have to go in and talk about it in those different things. It's really, how can you help? It's giving them content. Like, this content doesn't say anything about like 8 out of 10 businesses go under after a data breach or things like that. We're really trying to take in the account of the content that relates to them. And like you're saying, I mean, we throw in the mixture of things, why the global cyber attack is, because look, a part of your resilient strategy is to understand where your threats are coming from, what's going on, what are the common threat actors. I mean, we have to make sure you're resilient in that form as well. So I think it's taking a balance of the stuff that's important for them, and then having a balance of some of the stuff that's not in your face, like you got to buy all these things, but you just are showing this is what your business is
Right.
up against. And it's positioning it. I mean, talking about cyber insurance, how it's not the end all right now because there's a lot going on. And I think it's one of those things
Yeah.
like you're able to talk about it, and talk about that prevention, and you're talking about building, your actual resilient plan. Like, let's go build that. I'm going to help you as your IT provider, as your MSP, as your CTO, whatever you want to call it. But let's go through and review and revise your incident response plan. Let's make sure you're in a good spot, because in order to be resilient, we have to be able to respond. And management, improve your cyber hygiene, all these things. But this conversation, Dan, it feels so much more different than going in and just talking, full managed services. Do you know what I mean? And it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
taking these things and saying, like, look, if you're sitting across the table, what makes you different from another MSP? And you're able to get into some of these and say, like, look, we need to help your organization out. We want to help you build a really good, strong brand, hit your KPIs that are important to you. But we also need to be prepared. If something goes down, whether it's from a cyber attack, whether it's a power outage, whether it's an internet outage, we have to be a resilient organization. We got to look at a lot of things. So we're going to go through, we're going to make sure we have a good incident response plan. And we're going to, you know what I mean? And then you start walking through and having these
Yeah.
conversations. Again, you're going into their business and not going into, let's look at your server room. Like, that's going to be,
Right.
you're going into things that they're going to expect you automatically to be able to take care of. You need to get their buy-in on this stuff, because if they're buying in on response plans and helping you with their KPIs and all of that, they're more than likely going to say yes to projects and different things because they know it's going to impact the business getting to where they want it to go. And
Right.
so we've opened that door. So it just, I feel
And
like we've made a lot of stuff here, and we do these things on a monthly basis. Not every month is it this, but this topic alone has really resonated with hundreds of people around the globe, coming from the MSP. And I've heard it time and time again, MSPs coming back to me saying that conversation differentiated us. We won the deal because we asked these things, we talked about these things, and we actually implemented these things.
yeah, and ultimately what we're doing in this when we're having these type of conversations is we're selling without selling,
Yeah.
because we're having a conversation about their business and what ways that we can do better. So it's not like we're pitching, a particular product and going in there and then they're trying to figure out, okay, do I need this? You're doing the opposite. You're learning about where their needs are, and then those type of items will fall into place when you're trying to fill in a gap or achieve a goal. And I've been doing managed services now. I think I first started rolling out managed services in 2006, and I remember the early days of conversations of, so tell me about your environment. How many computers do you have? How many servers do you have? Do you have a firewall? And it was just so a disservice to the client, right? Because it's not that's not what it's all about, and that's not the value that we can provide. And in today's world, the true value, especially as much of what we do is becoming more of a commodity, because the tools, any MSP can provide and use the same tools that we all use, right? But it comes down to these kind of conversations and reshifting the focus and the direction of the conversation.
Yeah, and so we're bringing that conversation in. So we've gone through a lot of the things. If you saw early on in this ebook, we addressed a lot of questions, around like people and process. But then think about it, when we get to the audit side of it, these are some questions that we ask a lot and we're seeing good answers. What's been the biggest challenge at your company this year? I'm not saying technology here. I'm just saying what has been the biggest challenge at your company this year? Then you get into what's been your biggest technology or platform challenge this year, and how much time, would fixing that fix, would that alleviate? You get into the questions, but you're asking supporting questions. Asking them, what do you think makes your organization more resilient, and makes it resilient today? Um, what do you see your company gaps to being a resilient organization? Get where they're at, see where their knowledge is, and you're gauging what they know about their organization. And I really just, we showcase some of these things, and I brought it up. I wanted just to have this conversation because I think it's a good thing. I mean, this ebook is packed. There's lots of things that we put in here, how you can accelerate with technology, but we mixed it well enough to where
Yeah.
people are reading it completely. So this is the type of stuff that, we're really trying to produce for partners, is just get rid of the crap that's just selling a product or a solution. Like, that is not where we're at today. We're in the spot now where you didn't see anything in here that said ID agent, Kaseya, anything. It's all been built around helping you sell your full solution, because we know most MSPs today are not going out there in selling a product on their own. Some do, and we have stuff to support that. But we're seeing a large shift into having this type of conversation. And it's been a really important one. And we want to make sure that we create content like this on a monthly basis. I know ID Agent is the sponsor. Dark web monitoring, security awareness training, all of that is in here. You know what I mean? That conversation,
Yeah.
we're not calling it out specifically, but it's in a section in here, and it impacts that in terms of that ability to, that product that would be included when you're selling something. And if it's okay, I just want to show you one other thing about this. I'm going to just kind of show you the kit that goes with this, because I think it really starts to make sense. So now we're giving you newsletters. We're giving you that guide I just talked about. We've got a checklist to go with it, just, for them to go through. We're giving you videos. We're giving you blogs. We're giving you social graphics. We're giving you everything you need to be able to have that conversation. And then, what happens? Next month, we're giving you a new topic around thought leadership style stuff. Or like this month, we just launched for our partners for January around technology gaps, and really giving you the newsletters again, but different stuff and resources to be able to support you and your business. I really think that's as important. And I'm not trying to just preach, but we've got to, it's my role, and the beauty of having been an MSP is I don't want to create stuff that just sells a certain solution. I want to create things, no matter what vendor you have in there, we can help you sell your entire solution and be a partner with you to grow. And organizational resilience, I think if you talk about it and you take some of those things that we were just recommending from the webinar topic ideas, so you could have those, get them to raise their hand so you can come have the meeting, and then you follow it up with that type of conversation, you're setting yourself apart, and it's giving you stuff to really build on. And when you see that in each meeting, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about this topic, is because when I go into the meetings and I bring this stuff up on behalf of other MSPs, and I'm like, this is the stuff we're looking at, you can
Right.
see how refreshed the people on the other side are, and their heads are nodding, and they're sitting there and they're agreeing with things, and
Yeah.
we've engaged them. But that whole time they're giving us things, and we're taking notes like crazy, because we just learned about their whole business. And now our proposal is, let us be a part of it. Let's help you hit those KPIs that you were talking about. Let's help us take those biggest hindrances you had in 2020, and we're going to lay out a plan with you to make sure that that's not going to be your biggest hindrance in 2022, you know what I mean? Like, you set that guide, man, you come in there so much more prepared than what most people are used to seeing in a proposal.
And the depth of the materials that you guys have put together is amazing. You're not just scratching the surface at a particular topic. It provides a level of depth, and it's not only deep, but it's also wide,
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of the materials they provide. And let's face it, as MSP professionals, most of our talents aren't on the marketing side, aren't on the content creation side. And even if it was, the amount of time that it takes to put that together is enormous for one organization. And when you can, leverage the tools that have been put together by Kaseya Powered Services, I mean, why not? Why reinvent the wheel when you have a partner behind you that is putting the time and energy and money together to make this available? And that's just huge. And and I was thinking back while you're talking, we have a certain CPA client of ours that, when I go in to meet with them, there's times where it's a 2 to 3 hour meeting, and you might think like, my gosh, what are you talking about for 2 to 3 hours? Talking about their business, and what's amazing is that, we're talking about their business, we're talking about struggles. They're opening up about things that at first, when you really start to have these conversations, you might be surprised of how much they open up to you, because all of a sudden they're talking about, finances, they're talking about employees, they're talking about, just where their bottlenecks are and where there's challenges in their workflow. And once they start opening up like that, I mean, you've got them, you have got them, you've won them over. And, when I walk out of a 2 or 3 hour meeting and you think, man, your head must be killing right now, I think, no, I just help them solve solutions. And I've walked out with a lot of business, because I'm not going in there with, okay, we're going to sell you this, we're going to sell you that, like my pre-built agenda. Well, your agenda is learning about their business. And the more you learn about their business, then you start building and architecting solutions to help them, help them fix and get around whatever challenges they have. And it's that amount of time is so well spent.
4 of my largest customers when I was an MSP, 2 of them were manufacturing, some were in aviation, and a couple others. I sat in the executive meetings every week. So I had four 1 hour meetings a week. People are like, I don't have time to do that for every customer. And I'm not saying you do it for every customer.
Right.
But if you got some people that are bringing in some decent revenue for your organization, have substantial growth opportunities, why not treat it like you're the CTO? Why not put it into the place to where, as they rely on you on that, it takes any reservation of them hiring that position out. As long as you're able to handle it and you're able to go through and deliver on what they need. But I'll tell you what, the fact that they trusted us to be in those meetings and that they shared those intimate things, and they were constantly, and we knew if something wasn't going right, we knew it at those meetings, and it wasn't a blow up. We didn't have to wait till our 60, 90-day technical business review.
Right.
We knew that week, or we knew what was going on. And I think the way that we're looking at business today, I mean, things have changed dramatically, especially on the marketing side and that awareness side. A lot of MSPs, I get on calls daily now where people are coming in, they're like, we didn't do a ton of marketing, we were referral based, but the referrals are getting harder because people aren't out having those meetings or saying the things they used to. I need to build a brand, or I need to build awareness. And why not you go out there and build the awareness on organization or technology things, but making it really simple for them and making it a topic they want, and differentiate yourself on the awareness front. Because I asked a bunch of different prospects, of different MSPs at the end, different questions. And I asked, like, what do you think of this type of marketing sometimes? And they're like, we're numb to it. You know how many times I've seen 8 out of 10 businesses don't survive a breach? You know how many times my insurance company says that? You know how many times this company says that? Everybody's telling us that. But you don't have people coming in and talking about, let's get your organization, let's get an incident response plan, let's get, so just look at 2022 as an opportunity for you to change your message. Now, if what you're doing, don't go change your message if you're out there closing millions of dollars and you're, I'm not saying that, but if you're someone who maybe isn't pulling the leads you want and you're not closing the business that you're really looking at, I think it's time that you really look at how you could become that business partner, change your conversation with those people, and give them some supporting documents that backs up that you're not just sitting there talking. Like they could read that
Right.
ebook and go, my God, like these guys have got it together. I mean, they've got all this stuff put in there, and it's got technology in there, but it's also talking about our employees. And we know that's a big struggle point. Man, we've just made it to whereas we're now connecting with them in a better way.
And if you're apprehensive about the conversation, if having, business conversations isn't something you're used to because you are used to having technology conversations, baby steps, start small, just start doing it and jump in. Just don't be afraid. Just jump in, start doing it. And I think you'll be amazed that how much easier it is than it may seem, because I think, there might be some apprehension of like, gosh, I don't know about that aspect of their business, and I don't understand this, and I don't understand that. You don't have to necessarily know the intimate details. I guess you have to understand it from a conceptual perspective.
Yeah.
You're not going to understand it so intimately like they are, but you're going to see where there are gaps, where there are bottlenecks, where there are areas that are just broken, and you'll be able to, say, hey, I can put this in place. And Dan, last week when you and I were talking, and I've used this example before, so in webinars, but we have a manufacturer that it dates back to the 40s and 50s when it first started. I remember being in this in their office a few years ago and sitting there looking in their lobby area, these bookcases that are just full of 3-inch 3-ring binders. And I remember saying, so what are all these binders for, right? Just out of curiosity. And they're kind of old school. They don't have CAD drawings, so they're building these racks for other manufacturers, and they have the drawings of all the parts that need to go on these racks, and they're all handwritten drawings. And I said, what would happen if there were, like a leak, if there were fire, if there were theft? He says, we'd go under. He goes, those binders date back to the 40s and 50s. And he goes, we would go under. So long story short here, we put together a plan for archiving this to ensure that that wouldn't happen if there were a disaster. But we've also worked with them on how to put keywords in to make it easily searchable. And so now the guys that are in the shop, instead of them coming out into this area, grabbing a binder, looking for the sheet, what they're doing is they're pulling it up on a computer in the shop now. And they might print it, but a lot of times they're just looking at it on the screen. So it's changed their workflow. One simple question about what are these binders for? If I had never asked about it, their workflow, their protection of this data, this hard copy data, none of this would have been taking place. We would not have been able to resolve these issues, because let's face it, there are unresolved issues in every organization that through our conversations and learning about it and finding ways that we can implement different solutions and different tools, we can resolve them for them. They might be things that they have dealt with for years and just figured, oh, well, I guess if we have a fire or theft, we go under, right? Well,
Right.
do you really want to see that happen? I don't think so. And this is a multi-generational business, and they have sons that are growing up into the business and taking over. They want to see this continue to take place. So it's just asking the question, and that doesn't, you don't have to be a master business person to, have these conversations. You don't have to have, a MBA. You don't have to have any of that. You can just have simple conversations with them and ask the right questions.
Yeah, it's so, I mean, like you said, you asked a question, you were able to get there. And that's really what it gets down to. I mean, it's having a good relationship with customers. And let's face it, man, I can tell when you go into these meetings, and you said, like, if you're not comfortable, one of the things we can do is we can help you. You hear me say all the time, we'll go on calls with you. I don't have to have this shirt on. I change the color of my shirt probably sometimes 3 times a day, depending on what MSP. I try to match my shirt color to their MSP. But, when we go on these calls, you can tell companies that have been burnt by bad MSPs, that just didn't know what they were doing. They went purely on price. They didn't look at the value. and they didn't look at the the knowledge that was there. And I think the space, the pandemic pushed some of those businesses out that were just doing that, but then a lot popped back up.
Right.
We've seen a lot of people, and I'm not knocking any of that stuff, but what I'm saying is that it is harder than ever today for an MSP to go in and demonstrate value. And when you start saying some of the same things that people have heard through the previous MSP that they were burned by, it's hard. And I think that's why it's so important that you have to look at your messaging. You have to look at like what you're saying and how it's going to be different, how you're going to set yourself apart, because a lot of the places that I'm sitting in and my team is sitting in, we're hearing it is we've been burned before. We've been burned. This things didn't happen, and they said they had our security, and we never saw this. And it's like you've got to go in with a new message, because the second you start saying the same things the old guy did, they're just thinking in their head that entire time, God, are we walking down the same path again?
Right.
And that's really why I just encourage you to think about that, and knowing how many people are out there. Look at your area, see what the competition's like, and if you got a bunch of people that you're competing against, you got it. We always say this: you have to have your unique selling proposition. What is it? Like, what's the selling thing? And don't just say you're the best IT in Michigan, because Dan, I bet you there's about 100 other MSP websites that say that in Michigan.
Right.
You got to connect at the strings of the person looking at your website. Like, if I went to your website today and I'm that CEO or that CFO or whatever, and I started to see stuff about misaligned workflows, your team, and like morale and all of that, guess what? I'm hitting the strings of what's important to you
Yeah.
that nobody else is talking about. And so that messaging that you're taking, man, it goes to your website, it goes to your collateral, it goes to how you present. And it's something, it's a new year. We know the world's going to be digital again for a while. I don't think digital is going away, but how can you make yourself different on digital than the other people that are out there
Yeah.
saying it? And that's my big thing. And I'm happy to reach, if you want to reach out to me individually, I'm happy to talk to people. If anybody has questions they want to throw in, or even
Yeah.
the
If you, if any,
topic, I would love it, if they want to talk about it. But I think I just really wanted to bring this topic to mind, and if there's anything I can do to help, I'm always working with MSPs behind the scenes. And don't get in front of the scenes as much. Everyone knows you. I can't tell you how many emails you've probably gotten from me, or vice versa. I don't know how many people I was talking to people the other day, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm a part of your Facebook group." I'm like, "That's not my group." And
right.
I get people all the
Yeah.
time, but really, I hope people know that I genuinely do care and would love to work or help you with your organization or your business. If you're struggling with some of these things, there's things that we can do to really help you. Or if you have questions you want to throw in the chat or come up on, we'd love to talk.
Yeah, and if anybody has any conversation or questions or discussion items, and you want to come live on video or audio, please just throw in the chat or in the questions. I'll bring you on. I'd love to open it up. While we're doing that, one thing to mention is think about, we talked about referrals earlier, and there's like, oh yeah, I've got a guy, he's great, put a ticket in and then they get it done, right? That goes only so far compared to, what we had been challenged with something in our organization when it came to the overall workflow with our clients. We had, our organization, we have field staff, and basically the staff would be going out to client sites, and the entire process was archaic, and we had like two-part copies, two-part NCRs, and then that information didn't get back to the office till the end of the day, and then somebody put that in. If someone called with questions in the meantime, well, we would then have to reach out and try to get a hold of that field tech. And we've completely changed all this. This is just an example. We completely changed all this in our organization. It's improved the customer experience. It's allowed us to do more with less. And it's also helped us to improve our sales. Think about that conversation and say, well, how did you do that? Oh, the IT organization that we work with, they've really become a member of our team, and they've worked through and sat in the meetings with us, and they've learned about where our challenges are, and then they started putting together different solutions. That referral conversation is just huge in comparison to, oh yeah, I've got a guy, we put tickets in, and they get it done real fast, right? Which one do you want to be?
Well, not only that, you bring up a great point. I mean, one of the biggest referrals right now is, so the insurance industry is changing everything. They're making businesses now have proof of things. Like, it's one of the conversations we hear. One of the largest conversations is, hey, look, I need to show proof of NIST compliance for my vendor to continue to work with me.
Right.
So all these owners are talking in these meetings. I know an MSP that's gotten about 20 referrals year to date, and it's just started about 6 months ago, and he's already gotten 20 from a business owner, because he said, look, we got asked that same question. We hired this company. They're taking care of everything for us. They do our compliance for us. We click a button and it's there. We're able to, we've identified everything. And now when vendors say that, all we do is we provide the evidence of compliance. He's getting all kinds of referrals because it's
Right.
something it's a new thing, and there's lots of new things coming. The regulations and the cyber liability, just regular insurance. There's lots of things that are being changed. How can you make sure that when other business owners are faced with that your clients are referring you? And it's just, again, differentiate yourself. It's not a new topic, but there's lots of new ways that you can do it.
Mike Davis would like you to share your contact information. We will definitely throw that into the chat. Thank you,
Yeah, I
Mike.
can do that.
And
I
Mike,
wonder, you're the
anybody else?
so my LinkedIn's a little bit different. I'll put my LinkedIn in there because the other Dan Tomaszewski somehow took the one without the dash. I don't know who that might be, but there's
Right.
that. And then I'll also give you my 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 email address. I'll put it in here. If there's any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to work with you. But yeah, Dan can't steal the Kaseya email. That's like the only thing that
Right.
it's my
There,
sacred land.
there are very few advantages of being the older, the guy in the group, right? The older of the two, and but yeah, I mean, with the dash, without the dash, I guess I didn't even pay attention to that. So if you're looking for Dan, throw the dash in. If you or if you're looking for me, Dan, take the dash out, and
But
gotta
yeah,
love it.
anytime there's a new technology platform, I'm like, I got to get to it before the other Dan gets there. So
Right.
I get it without it. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. And thankfully that our dads are not in the same industry. Both of our dads have a first name of Bob,
Yeah,
which
good.
you tell the story, people are like, you're just making this stuff up, and no, we're not. But
Yeah,
so
no, it's crazy. But it's really cool. Look, it's something we get to talk about. I can't tell you how many people have pinged me over the last week or so after you started posting that thing, and how many people are like, which one's the imposter, or different things like that. Look, we have fun with it. I do think we need a t-shirt collection in 2022, Dan, that we can
we should.
we should release something to have fun. But all
Yeah.
seriousness, like, folks, it's a new year coming. If you need anything, know we're here. I mean, we're really blessed with everything MSP letting us sponsor from ID Agent, and just know that
Thank you.
this is not a, there's a lot more behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see. And this is what me and my team do. I'm not out a ton. I'm out on a lot of webinars, but not enough. I'm working on that for 2022. I don't want to go out and sell anything. I want to go out and show you the trends, show you what's happening, giving you the real stuff. And if we can assist you, you think it's the right fit, we're happy to talk to you. But would love to help you grow your business as you're going into the new year.
That is awesome. And it doesn't look like we have any questions. I think I think what you talked about, Dan, is just incredible information for us to take. And the key is taking that and applying it. And like Dan said earlier, I mean, if you're cranking out $1 million deals all day long, don't change what you're doing. But if you're looking to, looking for ways to improve your business, to differentiate yourself, to drive new sales, again, you can sell without selling by having these type of conversations. And nobody's going to ask, why are you different than, these other competitors that I might be looking at? If you are having these kind of conversations, they're gonna see it, they're gonna know it, and you don't have to have that awkward conversation because they've seen it in real time, and that's what really makes a difference. Show them how you're different versus telling them how you're different.
Yeah,
So
100%.
with that being said, we don't have any other questions. We do have a couple minutes to spare, but I think we can give that time back. And greatly appreciate you being here, Dan, your conversations and just your commitment to the IT channel. There's just you've done so much for so many in the channel, and it's greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody have an awesome holiday. There will be a email going out. There will be a replay. So please feel free to share this with fellow MSPs and other people on your team as well. So that you'll be receiving that within the next 24 hours. Other than that, again, happy holidays, everybody. Dan, thank you. And
Thank you.
everybody have a wonderful day. Take care, everybody.